In the past few lessons, we've been looking at views and models, and something that goes hand in hand with these topics is the action result. Now, you know that an action result is an object that represents the result of executing an action. And so far, we have used three different types of action results. Every time we return the view, we are returning a view result. We've also used the HTTP not found result, and in fact, instead of newing up HTTP not found result, we can simply use an extension method on our controller called HTTP not found. That will give us essentially the same thing. It will create a new HTTP not found result and give us that so that we can return it. And then in the previous lesson, we used the redirect to action method. This is another extension method, and it returns a redirect to route result. Now, there are many types of action results, and a lot of them are very useful. For example, let's say that we want to return our product information not only in HTML format by using our view, but we also want to return this information if JSON, if it is requested. So let's first of all add a parameter to our details method, and let's call it format. Let's also make it an optional parameter, and let's initialize it as null. And then inside of this if statement, we can check to see if format is equal to JSON. And if it is, then we will simply output the product in JSON format. To do that, we use another extension method called JSON, and we pass in our model, our product. And then if we wanted to return some other type of format, we could check to see if format is equal to XML. Now, we don't have an XML result, and we don't have an XML extension method, but we could write our own XML result that will serialize whatever object we give it. We could create an extension method called XML and then pass the product and essentially get the same type of API that we used for JSON. And then if we don't support a format, or if format is null, then we simply return the view. That way we are returning something. So if it's a format that is not supported, they at least get the data in HTML. And before we run this, let's say that this is return JSON. That would be a slight little problem. And let's run it. And we will want to go to products, and then we will pick a category, CPU, and then 1. Now, we didn't modify the route at all because our format is going to be part of the query string. So we will specify the question mark, and then format is equal to JSON. And then we get an exception. This request has been blocked because sensitive information could be disclosed, blah, 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 blah. Basically, we have to tell the JSON result that it's okay for us to respond to GET requests. This is a security measure because if our JSON payload has sensitive information, then we definitely do not want to respond to GET requests because it can be exploited. We only want to do that with POST requests. But since we don't have any type of sensitive information here, we can go ahead and respond to a GET request, but we have to explicitly do so by setting the JSON request behavior. We do that by passing a second argument. This is an enum, and we will say allow GET. The default is deny GET, as you just saw. So let's run this again, and then we will once again go to products, and then CPU, and 1, and then set the format to JSON, and this is going to download a file with a JSON format. But instead of downloading this file, let's open up Fiddler. Now, if you're not familiar with Fiddler, this is something that you definitely need to get familiar with. It is an HTTP debugger. It allows you to make requests so that you can see what is being sent to a server, and you get to see the response from the server, but it also captures HTTP traffic. So anything that you make in regards to an HTTP request, either by opening up a browser and going to some website, like here we just opened up Fiddler and it called home to Telerik.com. We can look at the information that was sent to Telerik.com with this request. We can also see the information that came back. So we can see the headers, we can see the text view, which that's not very helpful as text. There is no image here, but we can look at the hex and we can see that some binary data was returned. If the data is in JSON format, then we could see that data, XML, and so on and so forth. It is an extremely useful tool. So if you don't have it, download it. It is completely free. Just do a search for Fiddler and it will probably be the first hit. Now, I want to use Fiddler to make a request to our application. So I'm going to go to the Composer tab, and I'm going to paste in the URL. So this is going to go to localhost, and then our port, and then products CPU, and 1, and then format equals to JSON. So if I execute this request, it's going to send it. We can see that it was sent. And over here on the left-hand side, we have a record of that request being sent. We also see the result of that request, and we can look at everything else. So by selecting this on the left-hand side, we can go to the inspectors, and we can see everything about the request and everything about the response. Now right here we see everything. We have the headers right up here, and then we have the JSON payload. Now one very important thing to note here is that action results are responsible for doing everything that it needs to do in order to properly handle a request. So because we used a JSON result, the content type of the response is application/JSON. So whenever you write your own action results, if you do so, you need to set the content type, you need to set the cache control, and any other header that you might need to set. Now we can go to the text view, and this will give us just the JSON information. And here we can see our product that was serialized in JSON format. We have the ID, the name, the price, and then the categories was even serialized as well. So if you need to return JSON formatted data, simply use a JSON result. It's built in and easy to use, and in MVC 6, which we will see in 2015, it will use the JSON.NET library, which is even better. So things are going to improve with every version of MVC. Okay, so let's look at the next action result, which is actually there's 3 of them, and they are all related to a file. So let's go to our home controller, and let's add an action method called document. And this needs to return an action result. And let's go ahead and have the ID parameter, although we aren't going to do anything with it. Now, if you want to return the contents of a file, you want to use the file extension method. But there are 6 overloads here, and there are 3 return types. There is a file content result, which you provide the contents of a file, which is a byte array, and then it will write that byte array to the response stream. Then there's a file path result, which you supply the path to a file. It's going to read that file and then write that to the response stream. And then there's the file stream result, where you supply a stream of a file, and it's going to write that stream to the response stream. So we have 3 different types of results relating to files. And it's really up to us as to which one that we want to use. If we only have the path of a file, then we can use that. If we have the byte array, we can do that. And if we have a stream, we can use that as well. So basically every use case involving a file, we have the ability to write that file to the response stream. For this lesson, we're going to use the overload that allows us to pass a path to the file. I have a PDF document that I created for this lesson. It's called Hello Action Result. And we can basically just get the path to this file and pass that. So let me go to the properties so that I can get the actual path, and then we can just hard code this inside of that document action method. Ideally, in a real application, this would be dynamic. We would be taking information from our parameters and then doing something with that. So let's pass this path. I'm going to use a verbatim string, and then I need to get the file name. So let me go back here, and it is hello space action result.pdf. And the wonderful thing about this overload is that you can provide a path to any file. It doesn't have to be on the physical machine that the application is running on. It can be on a network share. So if you wanted to completely separate your documents from your web application, you can do that. Now, I believe that we need to provide the content type because it is not going to infer that from the extension of the file. But let's look at the other overloads. We have one with the string file name and then the content type. And then let's find the other one where it's the content type and the file download name. The content type is application/PDF. And whenever we run this application and go to home/document, then it should start automatically downloading that PDF file. So let's go to home/document, and there we have the PDF file. And there's really nothing in here except the text hello action result. Let's look at the other overload where we supply the download file name. I believe that this is going to prompt the user to actually download the file. So let's call this test.pdf. Let's go back and run this, and we will want to go to, once again, home/document. And then let's see if it prompts us to download the file. And it does. And the name is test.pdf. The next action result is the redirect result. Now, we have already seen the redirect to route result, which is what we returned whenever we called the redirect to action method. But we have a simple redirect method that we can use to specify a URL, and then that will return a redirect result. Let's change this foo method to become an action method. Let's also return an action result, and we want to simply call the redirect method. You supply the URL that you want to redirect to, and that's all that you have to do. If you know the URL, that's what you want to use. But if you want to redirect to an action on another controller, then you want to use the redirect to action result. The final two action results do not have extension methods, so we have to new up their constructors. The first is the HTTP status code result. This allows you to specify the status code, and that's it. So if you wanted to return a 404, you could do that. Although why you would want to do that, I have no idea, because we have a result for not found. But you could do a 401 or a 500 or basically whatever you wanted to do. You could also supply a status description along with that result if you wanted to do that. And then the final result that we will look at is the HTTP unauthorized result. And that basically says that, hey, you are not authorized for this particular resource. So you could supply a description if you wanted to, or you could just use the default constructor, and that will return the appropriate status code as well as the default description. Now, I believe that covers all but one of the built-in action results. There's one called JavaScript result, but it is considered an anti-pattern, and frankly, I have no idea what it is used for. It's recommended that we stay away from it, so I stay away from it. But the other action results are extremely useful, so use them whenever you need to.